Following their invasion of Kuwait, Iraq entered in a conflict with the United States and 32 other nations. Iraqi President Saddam Hussein refused to expel his troops from Kuwait, and in response the United States officially launched Operation Desert Storm. After large-scale Air Force attacks on Iraq and attacks by Iraq on Israel and Saudi Arabia, President Bush called for a ceasefire in February. However, the attacks by the U.S. and supporting countries resumed in 1993 in response to Iraq's actions. Regarding the economy, the United States received many donations from other countries towards the war effort, that in fact exceeded the amount needed to spend on the war, therefore allowing for excess money for the national budget. Much of a wartime economy wasn't observed due to the nature of this particular conflict, yet consumer confidence was raised. The first web browser, known officially as the World Wide Web, was introduced and commercialized in the 1990s. This powerful tool soon exploded, encompassing every aspect of social media. It also had long-lasting effects on the macroeconomy that we're more than familiar with today. The creation of the World Wide Web allowed an outlet for advertising, increasing demand. It also created jobs, decreasing unemployment. Revenue generated through the web may be long distance, allowing for increased proficiency/efficiency of consumption, and even overseas, counting as imports. The LA riots occurred,
beating African-American Rodney King were acquitted of all charges. The city broke out into mayhem with fire and violence for over 4 days. Afterward, the city was in ruins with over $1 billion in damage. Many people lost their work because places were destroyed. So unemployment went up, and rebuilding the city was a major project that would take a while to fix.
Hurricane Andrew hit in August 1992.
Florida, it left the area in shambles. With an estimated $30 billion in damage, it is considered the worst natural disaster in U.S. history, until Katrina in 2005. It left 250,000 people homeless and destroyed about 882,000 businesses. Over 100,000 people moved out of the area as a result. Also, tourism in South Florida wasn't very popular, so the economy took a hard hit, considering that tourism is over 50% of the economy.
The Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act, passed in 1993 under Clinton, raised the income taxes on the top 1.2% of Americans to 39.6% and cut the federal budget. The impact of this was unemployment increased from about 3.9% to 6.8%. Also, this act created many jobs, about 22.7 million. The personal income increased about 7.5%, and industrial production rose about 3.2%. After the bill was passed, it seemed that the short-term effect on the economy was great, as the economy boomed. It was impossible to give all the credit to the act. However, it did change much. NAFTA, a trade agreement
between Canada, Mexico, and the United States, was enacted on January 1, 1994. It produced the world's largest free trade area, boosting trade and investment between the two countries. NAFTA has been seen to improve the efficiency of domestic markets, as well as improving importing and exporting with Canada and Mexico by lowering the cost of importing. It has also raised GDP quite significantly. Foreign investment is positively affected too in Canada and Mexico.
The World Trade Organization
create a more structured and fair trading system among the countries of the world. Its main purposes were to oversee pacts made between trading partners and to facilitate compromise. Both John Maynard Keynes and Harry White, two extremely influential economists, were involved in the creation of the organization. The World Trade Organization affects the macroeconomy greatly, mostly through the GDP aspect of net exports. It also arranges and verifies national policies on trade. It allows for more veritable trade practices, therefore improving efficiency of U.S. trade.
The United States federal government shut down the non-essential parts of the government for 28 days because the federal budget for the next fiscal year could not be agreed upon on 2 separate occasions. The shutdown of the government affected the economy a lot, and the town was shut down. 370 national parks were closed. U.S. tourism and airlines lost millions. 20% of the government contracts were affected because they no longer were working, so many people were unable to get visas in the United States. A positive impact were that the following year the budget was perfectly balanced, as well as for the next 3 years.
The Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Act under President Clinton was an ideal model of his fiscal and macroeconomic policies, otherwise referred to as Clintonomics. It was created to give assistance to the poor from the federal government, therefore reducing unemployment as the recession ended. This in turn increased the budget from a deficit to a surplus. Lastly, the act increased the demand and confidence of investors, causing investment to increase.
This bill largely changed the financial services industry by taking away barriers between banks, insurance companies, and investment firms. It allowed all these entities to consolidate so that they could save and invest in the same place. Also, this act repealed some of the portions of the Glass-Steagall Act, allowing banks, brokers, and insurance companies to merge. Many people believe a large impact of this act is that it created the financial crisis in 2007. Economists think that if the bill had kept some of the legislation in the Glass-Steagall Act, that could have helped prevent the crisis in 2007 with some of the built-in safeguards that it had.
This graph illustrates the correlation between the Producer Price Index and real GDP in the years from 1990 to 1999. Producer Price Index seems to be slightly lagging behind real GDP. This graph shows the correlation between unemployment and real GDP in the decade of the 90s and shows unemployment to be slightly leading to real GDP. The LA riots took place in August 1992, following the verdict on the infamous Rodney King case, in which an African-American man, Rodney King, was assaulted by 4 police officers, who were later not convicted. The rioting took place for 4 days and caused major damage to properties and local businesses that totaled $1 billion in repairs. It also caused many injuries and even deaths. The National Guard was eventually called in order to stop the rioting, further increasing government spending. It also increased unemployment, as many lost their jobs as their businesses were destroyed. The event not only had economic implications, but also had political implications, as the judicial case was examined.